It's Dee Dee on the spot.
Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone to please give a like and subscribe down below if you enjoy this content. We greatly appreciate it. We have the band Rockdoll here on the show. They're coming to us all the way from New York, and we're very glad to have them on. How are you guys doing? Why don't you go around, introduce yourselves, and kind of give a little bit of a backstory on what got you into music and what inspires you.
Okay, hi everybody, we're Rockdoll. I'm Rockdoll, and this is the guitar player, Steve. Yeah, and we actually started a college, right?
Yeah, well, you had a career back.
Yeah, so I originally from China, and then and then I have a little bit career building back home. Like Rockdoll actually is my stage name back home, and then I released like 3 albums already, and then just want to get more experiences. Like so, I came America. Mm-hmm. And then in the college, we started this band.
Yeah, that's where I met her. You know, then we hooked up. We made an American band. And,
Yeah. Yeah. So
I am Steve Terranova. I am the guitar player for Rockdoll. And like I said, we met during college and just really hit it off musically. I think she has, personally, I think she has the best voice that I've ever heard. So, it's a lot of fun playing music with her, being on stage, all that good stuff. And I forget.
What's your influence?
Yeah, she actually is a big fan of Pink. I'm a big fan of Pink Floyd.
Yeah, so it's kind of a...
Yeah, so I grew up on classic rock. David Gilmour, Hendrix, all that good stuff. What were your influences?
I actually like all kind of rock and roll, but because I grew up in China, so the music is kind of a little bit different from here. So we in the radio we can hear most is like the pop or pop rock. But we, so that's why I got like Pink, like her voice is kind of influenced me a lot because her passion on the stage. So I start to more like music.
Yeah, so you didn't grow up with all the influences that we have here.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah,
so coming here, you really learned.
Oh yeah. I learned a lot of stuff over here and get more experiences, and then my mind is more open right now. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Rockdoll, you're gonna love this story. So you really like Pink. Our guest that we had on about 2 days ago, we like to have a balance of up and coming musicians and bands, and then we'll have some health and nutritionist people on and other sorts of fields. But we had a health and nutritionist on a couple days ago, and she ran into Pink in the gym in LA. And talked to her for 15 minutes. Yeah, Pink was there working out with her trainer, so then she went up and said hey, and got a photo with her. So that was really cool. So now, Rockdoll, growing up in China, what was the culture shock like for you when you went from China to America? Because they're 2 very different cultures. Was that a struggle for you?
I actually it's kind of easy for me to accept American culture. It's I feel when you come to a different country, even though it's most time is a different, the culture, the music, the food, everything. But I feel you should open more to listen more new music or
to embrace it.
Yeah, so it's I actually pretty happy to get know American culture, and then I have my own background culture, so mix it up. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Steve, you made a decision that I really don't know why anyone would make. You're from the East Coast, so you're already living in a good territory basically, and you chose to go to college in Minnesota. What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, to be honest, there aren't that many great contemporary music schools, so a lot of them are heavily jazz or classical based. So more or less, my decision kind of came down to like McNally or Berkeley over in Boston. Then to be honest, it just came down to tuition fees. Like Berkeley was over twice as much, to go there, and I think like 40 or 50,000 a year, so paying out of pocket, But I went to each school I visited. I liked the feel of Boston. It was nice being in the city. But then I went to McNally, and it had like a nice private like feel to it. And I met a few of the instructors, and their teachers there are no joke, man. They had the best of the best, and I just felt pretty confident going there. And I mean, I'm really happy I did, because I met a lot of great people, including Rockdoll here.
Yeah.
So I don't regret it.
Rockdoll, what was your experience like? I mean, obviously in China it can get really cold, but in Minnesota it can get very, very cold. What was your experience like during the winter?
Oh my God, it was super cold. And yeah, so I grew up in a big, busy city, like in Beijing. Like we don't have a lot of experiences with the snow. And the Minnesota is like very cold, and so it's like a lot of snow. So it's kind of not good for me.
Yeah, so just a lot of extra layers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm from the Bloomington area in Minnesota, so yeah, I know exactly what you guys are talking about. It can get very bad. But McNally Smith, I'd like to sort of talk about a little bit with you guys, because it did shut down. There is sort of a little controversy about that. What was your guys' personal opinions about that?
It's a shame, because the way us students experienced the shutdown was maybe in a different way than the media or the people reading about it experienced. But like basically, I think it was about a week before Christmas, give or take. Then I remember I was specifically standing outside with a couple of my buddies from the school. Some great guitar players and great musicians that I met there, and great friends. And then my one buddy Tomas just stopped, and he's like, "You guys," and he was reading an email just saying that the school was not accepting classes anymore, and that it was just shut down. And it was super out of nowhere, out of the blue. It's a shame though, because I felt terrible, because the teachers didn't get a last paycheck. So right before Christmas, they're like, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to pay you." All the foreign students who were still enrolled in the school now have to find another school or find a way to stay in the country. But a lot of them had to go back home because they couldn't extend their visa. Yeah. So it put a lot of people in a really tight spot. And even for alumni like us, she was in the master's program at McNally. Even for alumni like us, it cut off resources. And, it's like the Twin City area in Minnesota, it was largely fueled by the McNally students. And then all of a sudden that lifeline was just cut. So, it sucks on a lot of levels, but at the same time, we're also grateful, for our time there. So, what can you say?
Absolutely. So when you guys were starting as a band, did you guys ever have any discussion as to what type of genre you guys wanted to mainly play? Was there discussion there, or did you both kind of know what genre you guys wanted?
See, that's kind of funny. You said you listened to our first album, our first album in America, I should say, because she's had other Rockdoll albums. But our album that we have, Brand New Me, it's very diverse, as you noticed.
Yep.
So at that time when we recorded it, we were a new group. We weren't together that long. I just saw maybe less than a year at that point. But we had, why we differed so greatly is because we had different influences. We would pull ourselves this way, and then the keyboard player would kind of pull us towards the funk route, and so on and so forth. And then a lot of times the songs would just meet in the middle and collaborate and at a very good area. But a lot of times, she writes songs, and we have very similar styles, but we also enjoy getting bits and pieces of the other musicians. That's what music's kind of all about, is finding like people, you know, who make that whole something special. And our second album that we're working on, we haven't titled it yet, but that's a lot more. We've found our sound. We've been together longer. We've written even greater songs, and like we're really starting to kind of like dial it in. So I think our second album that we come out with in a couple months here will be a good defining factor, you know, in what the Rockdoll sound is.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now lyrically, how do you guys come up with your lyrics? Is it sort of day-to-day stuff, or is it stuff that you hear on the news, or is it what is your main influence, would you say, lyrically?
I think
Well, it depends. Like,
yeah, it depends.
Me and Rockdoll we're kind of the head songwriters. We provide most of the songs with lyrical content. I draw some of my lyrics from you know, very personal, you know, things, but it can be she's more of the lyricist than I am, but a lot of times maybe she'll come up with great lyrics, and I'll just help her like with a little grammar here or there, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you're better talking about the lyrics than I am.
Yeah, so I kind of like I think being in America, like in a different country, kind of gave me a lot of like feelings, or you know, like different like experiences. Like my life is different, so the words in my head is like more and more. Maybe it's like personally, but also how to say that? I'll use a word to say just like give me a lot of ideas, or
inspirational.
Yeah. So like that's how I like wrote down the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say I've noticed that sometimes it does differ day to day. Like some songs like Unfair, you know, maybe when she wrote the lyrics that day, she was feeling like, you know, stuff. Like,
yeah, it's like
it's
like your journey, right?
But
journey.
then songs like Make
Like
My
that.
Day, you know, it's very happy. Like, oh, you made my day. So that day she was, you know, very happy. So it's about the balance. That's the thing about being a musician or an artist is about finding ways to take those everyday emotions and like, you know, just communicate them on the level that we can all connect on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wondered, when it comes to song titles, I usually ask bands and then they have two separate responses. Either they take the song title out of the lyrics when the song's already written, and then that's how they come up with it, or sometimes they have a song title already sort of figured out and they write lyrics based off of that song title. What is your guys' main process when it comes to song titles?
Well, to quote one of my songwriting teachers at McNally, we're not famous enough yet to not have the title of the song and not in the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he stressed, you know, always have the title in the song, because you know it's very good for like recognition. And you said you like Sing It Loud. It's like, okay, the chorus is Sing It Loud.
Yep.
It's like boom, you know what song you're talking about. So, but you know, sometimes it is nice to have like write with the general concept. But yeah, a lot of times, because you also want the title to be like really short. You don't want it to be, generally speaking, you don't want it to be drawn out. So a lot of times when you write the lyrics and you have the music, the title kind of just presents itself like, hey, this is what the song should be called because this is the feeling right now. You know? Do you agree?
Yeah, kind of. I think my song when I wrote songs is kind of not have probably 65% time I did the lyrics first, and then like this like what word is in the lyrics like come up with a title that's pretty good for the song. So
but then
most of the time I feel like I'm like that way. Yeah.
But there are times where you you know, have an idea.
Oh yeah, sometimes I'll have a good idea like, this is gonna be a good song like for this one, and then start to write a song like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it depends.
So we loved your first song stories. What was the first song that you two came up with as a band, or you as a band came up with?
Oh, the first song on the album. Maybe it's
I would say, yeah, I would say Brand New
Brand
Me,
New Me,
the title
probably.
track, the second track off the album, is
Yeah.
probably the first one that we really came together as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Like she had a very rough sketch of the song, and
Yeah.
she came into it with us, and then like one of our ears just pricked up, and then the other guy is like, oh hey, and then just one after another we kind of like, and then the song just developed and like really quickly and easily, and it became like, you know, something. It was very much, musically speaking, it was a group effort. You know, it always helps when we have a song and stuff. If it helps her with like the melody, you know, if there's a concept already there.
Yeah, you should bring the melody and the lyrics, like,
Yeah, and
I
then,
just sing for them, and then when we're like in the practice room, and then
we'll tweak with the music. and
yeah,
stuff.
like that. Mm-hmm. And brand new music is like a really easy to come up. Like everybody is like just like super quick to do that.
And then we wrote like a killer bridge for that part, like that
Oh,
song
yeah,
just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like fell into place. And I think that was probably our first big like collaborative songwriting effort, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd love to hear first show stories. Where did you guys first perform? What was the venue, and how'd it go?
First performance in America, probably, right?
First one.
Drop out.
No, I think that was it.
Minnesota
Cafe.
Music Cafe. Yeah.
It was good. You know, it was a little bit before we recorded the album,
yeah.
and so like I said, we were a new band, but the songs, like in the material that we had, you know, we didn't know how people were going to respond. But then we got up there on stage, and it was almost like a little overwhelming because the crowd just like took to it, and they got so into it so fast. Like there were times where, you know, as a new band, we'd have to like kind of be like, hey guys, like we're starting to speed up because the energy is getting up there, but like you got to keep it calm and you got to keep the tempo steady, stay in the pocket, all that good stuff. You know, when you're up on stage, you got to be really conscious of. But you know, that's a good thing, is, you know, when you're kind of like surging with the crowd, and there were some really great moments that, you know, we really connected with the crowd, and
Yeah.
you know, I think that was a great indicator.
So the favorite question that I probably ask all of the musicians, especially that we have on this show, is what is the thrill of performing live like for you? What is that feeling? I mean, we've had so many people describe it as like a drug unlike any other. I mean, it's the reason why we do it. You guys have practiced these songs probably hundreds, if not thousands of times. Then when you finally get to play them in front of people and just get that positive reaction, this is a question for each of you too. What is that feeling like personally for you when you're live performing?
I mean, that first analogy of a drug, like unlike any other, yeah, that's certainly true. I don't know about you, but for me personally, like when I'm up on stage, that's kind of just one of like the only places I ever feel like home. It's like you get up there and it's like you get like a great feeling over you, and then when the music starts, and then especially, you know, it helps when there's a good crowd that's feeling what you're doing. But when you connect with the people and they're having a great time, like you're having a great time, and you guys just like you reach that higher level together, and that's something that you don't usually get just walking down the street or you know, going to work, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Just like when I'm on the stage, like I'm a totally different person. Just like, and especially like when you see the audience, like they give you back like the reaction and they're happy, and then like if I see more people, like I will feel like super excited and happy. Like, but just like if I don't see people, like, you know, I would just like, oh, I'm sad, like that. So it's like when I'm on the stage, I kind of just like happy. I never think about this question, but it's just like I'm happy on the stage. Like I want to do that. Like that.
And like you were saying, this is something that we've practiced and done hundreds and thousands of times, and so when we get up there, and that's like our payoff moment, you know. So it's like when the crowd is digging what we've been working so hard on, there's no better feeling, because it's like, we've been working so hard, you know, for not just for ourselves, but for all you guys. Like, and now everything's like being reciprocated, and like just it kind of just takes you higher and higher. And it's like when you have a good crowd, I mean, that's the best feeling in the world. It's really hard to describe because there's not much to compare it to.
Absolutely. It's one of those feelings I think everyone should at least try to experience, because it really is, I mean, from what everyone's described it really is just a great feeling. But when you're on stage and performing, does time seem to speed up or slow down, or is it a mixture of the two?
Say the beginning of that question again.
When you're on stage, does time seem to slow down or speed up, or is it a mixture of the two?
Man, I'd say it is a little bit of mixture, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like during the song, if you're having like a solo or something, it seems, like you're so in the moment that every moment is kind of like ticking really slow, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, before you know it, your set's over, and you're packing up, and you're just like, oh man, I wish we had time to play another set. So that is, I don't know what's being like compressed or expanded, your concept or perception of time, but something's funny.
Yeah. And when it comes to, I love to ask, pre-show traditions. Do you guys have pre-show rituals or traditions? We have some bands on here that like to say, we like to have a few shots, we like to have a beer or two, we like to stretch. Do you guys have any pre-show traditions, or do you guys just like to wing it when you get to the venue?
I don't do that. I don't think we.
I like to wing it.
Yeah.
Just kind of like see how it feels, because each venue's going to be a little different. There are certain things like, for example, I like to make sure my hands are clean, because when I'm up there playing guitar, nothing's worse than having like sticky stuff on your fingers. And so, I mean, aside from that, getting up there, it's like each venue's going to have its own individual feel. The setup on the stage is going to be different, so you have to be really open and ready to adapt. But
I usually like to check the stage before I'm on the stage.
Yeah.
That's because I want to see like where I'm gonna go, or like I don't want to, when I'm running on the stage and fall down the stage. Yeah, I just want to check that and have that in my mind and have a picture for that. So it's like kind of prepare like that.
Yeah, and especially as the front man, like, it's her job to engage with the crowd more than anyone else. So you gotta work the stage. So you need to be aware of the area. Like, hey, there's a lot of cables up here. You can't see from the audience.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like, you'll have X amount of space, and if you go too far to this way or too far that way, you could be tripping over a wire. You could be running into the drum kit, like hitting a monitor. What have you. So you need to understand that pretty well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now we go to our audience favorite part of the podcast, the little questionnaire that I like to do at the end. I'll ask you guys 5 questions that each of you can answer individually, and we'll add up your responses. I think when I reach a certain number of podcasts, I'll release the most popular answers. We'll find out who the winners are. But for the first question, out of all the songs that have ever been written in the history of music, what is one song you personally wish you would come up with yourself?
Come up with myself?
So what song did you wish you
like other people's song?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we count a concept album as one song?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know what he's gonna say.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, yes.
Hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a masterpiece beyond words.
Absolutely.
You have to listen to it front to back, or else you're not going to get the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Then that's a great album. Oh my God. Then I would say What It Takes by Aerosmith.
Oh, that's a great one too.
Yeah, that's my favorite song.
Absolutely.
There's a lot. We could sit here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah, absolutely. So now for our second question: out of all the artists that have ever lived, dead or alive, doesn't matter. You can pick either one. If you could perform live for one show with any artist or band, who would it be?
For me, it'd have to be again Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a diehard Floyd fan.
Yep.
They taught me how to interpret music.
Oh, absolutely.
Mine is Pink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now for our third question, out of all the venues on the planet, if you had your pick to play at any venue on the planet, where would you go?
Oh man, I mean, like what place would you want to play? I mean, there's a lot of venues that I've never seen or I've never been there. But I'd like to, one day I think for a sentimental reason, I'd like to. There's a Six Flags Darien Lake that has by my house. There's a huge, like 50,000 outdoor size venue, and I think I've seen a lot of great bands, Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, like even Dave Matthews, like John Mayer, what have you. I've seen a lot of people come to there. So for a personal reason, I'd like to play there one day.
Okay.
I have two places.
That's fine.
One is the New Year Day at the New Year, like a New York City or something, like the New Year.
Oh, Times Square.
Yeah, like that.
Oh, okay.
Like everybody know you on New Year's, like that. And second one is like what's that? The Grammy Award stage.
Oh yeah.
Like the Grammy Award.
So she wants
like,
to perform at the
stage.
Grammys.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Those are great choices. So now we get to the real nitty gritty of the podcast. What is a guilty pleasure song that you enjoy that you think most people would never guess that you like?
I need to think about that. Oh, it's like, I don't know. Let me think. What's yours?
I don't know. It's hard to say because we spend so much time writing these songs. I have my favorites for sure, and I have my not so favorites. But
in our album, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I pretty much enjoy
answer.
playing all of them. You have an answer?
What? So it's like
Oh, guilty pleasure song that you've listened to, not guilty pleasure song that you've come up with.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would listen to.
Yes.
Oh, man.
To. Oh.
Man.
It's hard to say. Do you have one?
Off the top of my head, no. I mean, I'm kind of proud of a lot of music.
Yeah.
But, I'd say like I'm a big Dave Matthews fan, and some people disagree with that. But
Oh, he's good.
yeah, I think he's probably like the best male vocalist of our time.
Yeah, there's a certain argument for that for sure.
Yeah. A guilty song.
I kind of don't have an answer because I feel like
No Backstreet Boys or Justin Bieber?
I used to sing that, but because we're in China, like he's like very famous in the radio.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there are a couple of what's that one Lady Gaga song?
Poker
I guess
Face?
that's Million Reasons.
Million Reasons.
I guess that would be my like.
All right.
I like that song probably because I spend too much. Yeah.
Yeah. So now for our final question, if you had the all-knowing power to sort of, you could do anything you want, and if you had the power to erase one artist's entire music collection from existence, like everyone would forget that they ever recorded anything, no one would remember that they were ever artists, and again, I have to reiterate this because I always get asked this, you are not killing this person. Let's just say instead of becoming a songwriter, they turned into like a plumber or construction, or they did some other occupation. But if you had the power to do that to one artist, who would you pick?
Shoot, I've never thought. I try to think of everyone in a positive way.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of music that sucks. I don't know, Justin Bieber, I guess. Just
That's
for
what I'm gonna say.
Just for the image.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna say.
I feel like he maybe represents things in a negative way on top of the fact that his music sucks. Oh, you know what? Cardi B. I think.
That too.
I feel like a lot of that music is like, man, it's already been done. Like, well, why is this special, or what's different about this? But hey, it's not.
Absolutely. So we got Justin Bieber and Cardi B. And I gotta say, our most popular answer, Justin Bieber's second. Our most popular answer is Post Malone. We've had about 6 people say Post Malone, which I can really understand. But now moving on. So you guys said that you're currently working on an album. What's the current progress on that album?
We haven't officially recorded everything, but we have over half the songs completely like arranged
Kind of,
and done and like practiced up. So we're ready to go in and knock it out of the studio. So we just have probably gonna throw about. We have all the ideas there. We just have to finish the arrangement on like say 3 or 4 more songs and polish them up, and then it'll be ready. But it's the majority of it's finished, and we're just gonna go in the studio, knock it out real fast. But man, those songs are.
It's gonna be a great album.
Yeah, it kind of makes our first album look, But I guess that progress is always welcome in the world of music, But there's some very powerful songs.
Is there a release date that you guys are kind of eyeing, or an ideal time when you want to release the album?
No, because we're about to relocate to Los Angeles.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of implications with this, so I don't like saying it, but we're a Chinese rock band. More like a rock band that uses some Chinese lyrics. Yeah. But on the West Coast, there's a pretty big Asian culture, so I think there's a lot of fans and a lot of people that we can tap into. On top of the fact that China is, in my opinion, like they're dying for some good, positive, like in positive light rock and roll, because a lot of the rock and roll they have over there these days is very like associated with like negative or like people thinking they're rock, but they're just being, jerks, so like they need a good rock influence. So I think, plus she knows a couple of producers back in Beijing that also have a place in LA, so there's a lot of ties that people that we can communicate with.
Yeah, and Rockdoll, do you think that because rock and roll was started, basically as, an American, British, sort of Australian, a Western, ideal of music, do you think that that's been hard for sort of the Chinese to adapt to it, since the cultures are so differently when it comes to adapting something that was like so ingrained in Western culture?
I think like before, like we kind of got a wrong idea of rock and roll. So that's the reason why we have like a little bit like negative stuff or underground. So people think the thing is like, oh, I think that's cool, that's rock and roll, but actually that's not. So that's the people get wrong ideas. So we don't have a lot of real rock and roll in China. So that's why I feel, but right now I feel like people in China, they are ready for more like real rock and roll, or like a big heart like that, like rock. So I actually feel like that's like a good time for us to do this. So it's like pretty.
I think from what she's saying, I think to answer your question, I think they did get the wrong impression, maybe because of the cultural differences. We were actually just in Beijing, visiting her hometown, and we had a couple of shows over there as well.
Yeah.
But you could definitely tell there are times when you have that rock spirit that we're all familiar with here, and you could definitely see some people were a little like confused, like what's going on? Like, is this person okay? It's like, no, you're just letting those emotions, like it's rock, man. So there's gonna be a little bit of crossover there, but
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So, do you guys have any upcoming shows that you would like to promote?
Not at this moment. We're just here in New York. We're basically dropping some things off, taking care of a couple of things, and then we're heading right out to Los Angeles. So we're about to reconvene with our band in about a week here, in a week's time, and then we'll have some shows coming up.
Yeah.
Well, definitely let me know and keep me posted on that, because I'd love to announce them on this show. I love promoting all the guests that we have on here. No problem at all. And guys, if you're in the LA area, definitely look up Rockdoll. Definitely. I mean, I listened to their album. They have some really great songs. Personally, if you guys want to go on there, you can go on SoundCloud. Or what are the other ways that people can find your music other than SoundCloud? Do you have it on Spotify, iTunes?
Yeah, we're in the process of that. Okay. We're kind of just like getting all our press package together to release everything to social media. We're waiting on a couple of copyright things from the U.S. Copyright Office right now, but that's all coming very shortly. You'll be able to find us on Twitter, Spotify, Instagram, all that stuff. You'll be able to.
So is it all right if I tag your SoundCloud album then in the bottom of this video? Okay, yeah, absolutely. Then I'll do that. I just didn't want to get like a whole copyright thing if it wasn't published. But yeah, you'll follow on the links below, listen to their music. I highly recommend these guys. And I like to ask these two final questions before we wrap it up. I ask them to every guest. If someone were to walk up to you on the street and say like, "Hey, I really want to become a musician. I really want to join a band," what would be the best piece of advice that you would have for that person in order for them to be successful or at least enjoy it?
If they really mean it, because I hear that a lot actually. And one thing I will say, man, it's a lot of work in the beginning, especially like playing guitar. Guitar isn't something that you pick up super quickly, but I will say it's so worth it. If you just stick in there, like not just a couple of short months, just practice a couple minutes every day, hang in there, and when like you'll be able to play really well in no time, and when you do, you'll be so happy that you did, because it's the best feeling in the world. But don't get discouraged. You know, I see so many young kids these days getting discouraged because I would give guitar lessons on the side, sometimes, and I can see a lot of people getting discouraged at an early stage. And please just stick in there. It's so worth it, and you'll be so happy.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I answer probably I would say never give up, because like this is like a long road. So sometimes it's not look so good, and then you gotta hang in there, and then there's a lot of pressures on you, and you gonna like have a lot of sad moment or not happy moments. So like it's easy to give up, but you have to hang in there. Just never give up.
That being said, if you just want to play some music and have fun, if you want to take it seriously and be like a musician for your profession, yeah, it gets very hard. But if you just want to have fun with it and just be in a band, like that's totally doable. Cool, like it's music, it's passion, have fun. Never lose that love for the music.
Absolutely. And then lastly, if you could talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give them?
18 years.
Keep practicing.
That's probably the biggest one that we get, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say I don't know. I would say probably the similar stuff, but I would just say,
Say, watch out for that last step when you get off the airplane.
No, I would just say something similar. Just like keep playing there.
Yeah, hang in there, don't give
You're
up.
good, like that.
Absolutely. So again, you guys, Rockdoll, highly recommend that you give these guys a listen. And lastly, actually, do you guys have any bands that you enjoy that you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest one is we're meeting them out in LA. Our good buddies. 200 Days of Rain.
Okay.
Our buddy, Tomas Simpson and Nico, they're also from McNally.
Yeah.
They're good friends. We're going to be playing shows out with them in LA. So come check us out. Check them out. Rockdoll, 200 Days of Rain.
Yeah.
Killer bands.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, you guys, Rockdoll, highly recommend. Leave all the links down below. We really appreciate having you guys on. And like I said, anything promotion-wise that you guys need me to do, just shoot me a message. More than happy to do it. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.